think they caught him?
I hope they did. Can't be having that.
Alright.
But then again, I hope they did.
Alright, first giving all honor, praises and thanks to the God of creation, one true living God, whether you call him Allah, whether you call him Yahweh, whatever you call him by. We're talking about the God of Malcolm, we're talking about the God of Elijah, we're talking about the God of Martin, we're talking about the God of all of those who serve him in truth. I want to greet everyone in peace. And in the Hebrew culture, we say shalom. Shalom means peace. So,
Peace.
I want to just take a few minutes to kind of lay the foundation and pick up on the conversation that we was having before. All right. So, what we're going to do, we're going to have monologue. See, while we're doing this, I'm going to be throwing things at you. Okay. I'm going to throw things that's going to be, it might be a little over your head, but we're going to bring you right there with it so that you guys, y'all going to be right here. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Okay? So we're going to have monologue and we're going to have dialogue. What's that? What am I saying? And I need y'all to be popping. You got to be like this. Boom.
False and true, I guess.
Say it again.
False and the true.
A little bit more. Like monologue is like one person speaks. So we're gonna have monologue. I'm gonna be speaking. But dialogue, when you have dialogue with somebody, you heard that word, right? Mm-hmm. Dialogue is what? Right.
Communicating.
Communicate. We're talking.
That's right.
We're talking this out. Because it's very serious times, first of all. It's very serious times that you guys are walking through, that I'm walking through, because we in it. We in it together. And this evening, I'm going to pull from the pages of the newspaper, but I'm going to go back and review what we had went over in the last class. Show you how all of this ties together, how this conversation and you guys coming in here this evening, you have no idea how significant and how timely it is. When I say timely, that means it's right on time. It's right on time. Last week, when we came in, the title of the class, what we focused on, was the Moses factor, right? And what we showed was how what's happening right now was happening 2,000 years ago, and it was happening 5,000 years ago. Okay? Show you what we're talking about. Because we said, going to this Bible here now, I want y'all guys to understand that there's no religion that's connected with this book. You know what I said? Yeah. No religion is connected with it. If you look in the Old Testament, you don't see Christianity, you don't see Baptist, you don't see Presbyterian, you don't see Methodist, you don't see Episcopalian. It ain't in there. Okay? Now, what you do see is the story of an African people and their lifestyle. That's what this book is about. This is a history book. This is a history book about a group of African people. Now, I just came back 2 years ago from the place where this happened. Now, the issue, how did we get this book and now all faces came to us white? How did it happen? How you think it happened? I mean, take a guess. I mean, y'all watch movies? Think of something that like a movie.
Rob took it over.
Rob took it over.
Stole it.
Very good. You know,
right.
I mean, y'all banging it. Y'all hitting it on the head, you know. Literally so. Literally so. It's like
Took credit for it.
yeah, yeah. A meal, a mirror.
Email.
Email,
Email.
a meal. I'm a
You
little
got
slow,
confused from
but
the
I'm
other
gonna
one
get
that was
it.
here, Mary.
Huh?
You got confused from the other one that was here.
What happened to him? Y'all cut him?
I think
He
probably
cut-
had
he
football
cut from the
practice.
squad?
Yeah, he got probably had
He
football
probably be
practice.
here later then. He probably be here later. But what you guys said is it's 1,000% correct, because what happened was when the Euro Gentile, y'all ain't never heard that word. What's a Gentile? A Gentile is someone who lacks the true understanding of the Creator. Okay? I'm gonna give you these words, and in the future y'all probably gonna wanna, so y'all can go back later on and get this, because what I'm telling you, Brian, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm telling you, this will empower you and make you able to go anywhere in the world, and speak this, and they will have to respect the truth of what you say. Been there, done it. I done had Jewish people who, by the time I was finished telling them who I was and who they were, they wanted to scream, they wanted to holler, they wanted to all of that. But at the end of the day, they had to confess that what you're saying is true. Because everything that I'm going to tell you, I'm going to back it up. I'm going to show you a map. I'm going to show you a book. I'm going to show you something that says, there it is right there. I didn't write it. Everybody got to deal with it. And the interesting thing is this stuff has been here the whole time. You know, we actually don't have a map, but what we did with the video, we put the map. We're gonna put the maps in later. Y'all gonna love it when y'all see how we do this. It's real nice. But we were talking about the plot to destroy and the Moses factor. So what we did, and we're gonna go through this real quick. We go to the second chapter of Exodus. This is right around the time of the birth of brother who the majority of the, not the book of Exodus, not Exodus yet, we're going to Matthew first. The brother who most people have come to know as Jesus. Okay? I don't want to offend anybody. I gotta tell you the truth so that you know. You can do what you want with it. You can run with it, you can reject it, however it rolls, okay? First thing, just what you said. So it ain't even my fault, it's what you said. This word right here, Jesus, the brother who that was, when they conquered our people and took the story, they basically twisted it, changed it, and put themselves in it. There's a guy by the name of Michael. So let me tell you where this came from. I don't want to get off the point. Matter of fact, I'm going to pull my phone out so I can keep up with the time. Okay? We're going to move through this quick. You guys ever heard of Michelangelo? Yeah. That's the reason why the majority of the people on the planet think that the person who they call this is a European. Okay? Because what happened was when the Romans in 70 ACE. What's 70 ACE? 70 years after the Common Era. What most people say, ACE is the same thing as AD. AC, BC, and AD after the death of what they say, but we say common era. We say the common era as opposed to AC and BC and AD, because that ties you into the story that they made up, the myth. Okay? Now, the Romans conquered the Israelites. The Israelites were an African people. Israel is right next to Egypt. What continent is Egypt in?
Africa.
Okay? So, if Israel is right next to Africa, right next to Egypt, it at the very least we know it's right next to Africa, but it might be in Africa. I'm going to see the class this evening is about the power to define. This is the most important subject that you guys got to understand, because the power to define is how nations have empowered themselves and disenfranchised, broke down, and destroyed people by changing their names, by changing their culture, by changing their spiritual practices, by changing their way of life. Okay? That's why I'm calling you Tyrone and not something else. You understand what I'm saying? So, in 70 ACE, the Romans conquered the Israelites. Okay? Hebrews. Now, when they conquered them, now imagine you over somebody, right? There's a saying. The saying is, to the victor goes the spoils. Now I want you guys just to stay with me, because I'm going to show you exactly how what happened 2,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago has to do with what's happening with us right now. Us as black men. And what's happening in the streets and the shooting that was going on today. Okay? To the victor goes the spoils. Anybody have any idea what they think this might mean? To the victor goes the spoils. What's a victor? Huh? A winner. Okay. So, when they're talking about the spoils, well, yeah, that's what you would think. That's what you would think. Spoils of war. So the spoils of war are, when you conquer a people, what you get, everything that's left after the war is over. So, from what you're saying, to the winner, whoever wins the war, huh?
What they get? Everything?
Everything. Whoever win the war get everything. But one of the most important things that they get to tell the story. Follow me? So, if I win the war and I get to tell the story, how you think I'm going to talk about myself?
Good about yourself.
How you think I'm going to talk about you?
Damn.
That's what happened. That's basically, now, what happened with Michelangelo, when he come in, he was commissioned, he was paid by people to paint the images in the Bible stories as Europeans, because he was an Italian. He got people off the street, prostitutes, anybody who could get to be a model. That's what those pictures were based upon. This is a historical fact. It's crazy, right? That's now. This word here, Jesus, we were saying, is not he. Jesus was a Hebrew. He was an Israelite. Okay? Now, all names in the Hebrew language have a meaning. When I introduce myself as Gamariyahu, my name means completion of the Most High, or perfection. That's what it means. Now, Jesus, that didn't mean nothing. That's a Greco-Roman term, Greek and Roman. Don't have anything to do with the African Hebrew Israelites that Yeshuah. Let me tell you now, watch what happens when I do this. Yeshuah. Okay? Yeshua. This is how it's written in Hebrew. Yud, Shin, Vav, Aleph, Hey. Okay? This word right here, Yeshua, it means he shall deliver or he shall save. That's what the name means. So every time somebody was calling him, they're saying, he got power. There's power in the name. How the name got switched. When the Europeans conquered those people, they changed everything over into European, and that's how it exists today. Okay? That's why most of us got exposed to Christianity. You know, the Catholic Church, what came out of this, the Catholic Church, Catholic, the word Catholic means universal. That's what it translates to. Catholic means universal. So they had established a universal church. Every branch of Christianity that exists out there right now comes out of the Catholic Church. If you look, if at the roots of the tree, Catholicism is the root, everything else comes out of that. You follow what I'm saying? Because what happened was in the 16th century, which is the 1500s, you had Martin. What the Catholic Church was doing, the Catholic Church was selling allotments. That's what it's called, allotments. What's that? They were selling places in heaven.
Sound crazy, right? Yeah.
Sound crazy, right?
Yeah, sound crazy.
I'm going to show you where all of this stuff comes from right now. The Catholic Church had the practice of selling places in heaven. They were selling allotments. There was a priest by the name of Martin Luther who objected to that. He was like, that ain't cool. So his objections, he wrote them all down and he posted them on the doors of a church. He was protesting. That's where the Protestant church come from. That's where the Protestant Reformation began and the whole Protestant movement. The Methodists came along later. They didn't agree with what the Protestants were doing. They wanted to establish a new method, the Methodists. And it just kept going on and on. Episcopalians, Baptists, Presbyterians, so on and so forth. But if we don't know where any of this comes from, we can't touch it. Because it's like religious. You can't talk about that. All religion is, I don't practice religion. Your faith or your culture or your way of life, that's what's in this book. That's what I observe. See what I'm saying? Now, religion is just a social, political, with a spiritual aspect to it. That makes sense? That makes sense?
Say it again.
It's a social and a political party, like the Democrats and Republicans, but it's got a spiritual or religious element to it. That's all it is. The Methodists, they was protesting against what somebody else was doing. The Calvinists came and all of that, stuff we never even heard of. But all of it, none of it has to do with any original African understanding. None of it had to do with us, where we come out of. So anyway, just trying to give you guys a little background on where some of this stuff come from, so that you don't get pulled into that. So what we're talking about when Yeshua was about to be born, okay? When Yeshua was about to be born, the Romans had conquered Israel, right? There was a king by the name of Herod. Herod, y'all heard the story of the 3 wise men, right?
Mm-hmm.
3 wise men, they had the wisdom on, okay, there's a deliverer for these people that y'all are oppressing that's going to be coming. We don't know who it is, we don't know where, but he coming. He tell Herod the king this. Herod was like, okay, bet. Why don't y'all, y'all go find him, and when y'all find him, just let me know. That's the play. That's I'll read it to you how we read in here, but that was the deal. Now, when he say let me know, so I can, give my blessings to you, think that's what he was going for? No. What do you think he was going for? Huh?
When I'm going. He want him
He
gone.
want him gone. He want him X. Now, when Yeshuah was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where the, I'm going to substitute, instead of saying the Christ, I'm going to say the Messiah. Okay? Now, got to tell you about this word, because this is the whole reason why we talking. Right here. The word Messiah is the European interpretation of the Hebrew word. I'm not sure if I'm spelling it correctly, but Mem, Shin, Shia, maybe Yud, Ket, Shia, might be an olive in there. Mashiach. Okay? Now, it's a whole lot of confusion about this. Okay? Now, in the African culture of the Hebrews, this was supposed to be a continuous thing. Anytime the people got on jam, anytime they forgot the old paths, anytime they started losing their mind, a deliverer comes to remind them how y'all supposed to be living. It happened when Noah was a Mashiach, he was a Messiah, right? Abraham was a Messiah because Abraham, out of which, see, this is the thing, we got to know, you got to know this history, man. You got to know this history. Abraham is the father of all faiths. What I mean when I say that? Any idea? Do we know about Abraham?
No.
Okay. Abraham. In Hebrew, Avraham. Abraham had 2 sons. One was named Ishmael. One was named Yisrael. Sound familiar? Yisrael? Israel.
Oh.
Abraham was the father, right? Abraham and Ishmael's mother, because Abraham had 2 wives. One whose name, she was an Egyptian, named Hagar. The other one here was Sarah. She was an Israelite. Okay? Now, this name Ishmael means God shall hear. God shall hear my cry. God shall hear. Israel means one who has power with God and with man. That's what the name means. That's heavy. That's a heavy name. God shall hear. One who has power with God. See, out of Abraham, oh, I forgot to tell you. Ishmael, this is where Islam came from. Israel, this is where the Hebrew culture came from. Now, my question is this. If they both have the same father, what does that make them? If Israel and Ishmael have the same father, what does that make them?
Brother.
Yeah. All day long. Mm-hmm. All night too. So, really, when you look at the culture of the Muslim and the true culture of the Israelite, it's similar. What happened was, see, Islam comes in the 7th century out of a different place altogether. We won't go too deep into this right now. We can. The Israelite culture was older. See, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born in the 7th century, which is about 600 BC. Yeshuah, we were talking about earlier, approximately 600 years before that. So you see the difference in the age of years. It really doesn't matter, because if you're a father, right, you have 2 sons, you gonna teach one son something totally different from the other son? No. This is the point that I'm saying again in terms of how the social and the political parties of man have come into the religious or the spiritual area. That's why you have Jews fighting with Muslims. That's one of the biggest confrontations going on right now. But it doesn't have anything to do. Now, you got to remember, all of this we talking about right here is African. All of this is black. All of this. When we went to Israel, there were some brothers and sisters who traveled from Ethiopia. Because we reading about it, in 70 AD, when the Romans cast us out of the land, when they conquered our land, the Ethiopian brothers heard about it, and they traveled by foot to Israel, and they said they were going to stay there until we came back. I'm telling you about you. Because when they saw us coming from America, black people who looked like them, they cried. They said they know it was no way that we could leave the land black and come back white. That's what they said. They still there now. I'll show you pictures of them. You know what I mean? Take you there and show you this, man. It's crazy. It's mind blowing, man. So, all right, we back on this story about Herod, right? So the whole plan was, I'm going to skip through this because we got to get to what we got to get to talk about. The plan was, see, if Herod's the king and he says, okay, I got to get to that. See, what happened shortly after that, when he was born, Mary, Mardai, and Yosef, they had to go and hide in Egypt. Okay? They went to hide in Egypt. They were there for approximately 14 years. Okay? Because Herod was killing black male children, young black boys. There was a now if Herod's the king, he represents the government. That means it's a government program to X out people who look like you and I during the time of Yeshuah. Is that clear? Mm-hmm. Any question? Any question about anything at all pertaining to that? Now that's 2,000 years ago, right? Any question? You good? Now we want to go back approximately almost 6,000, but really like about 5,700 and some change to the time when Moses was born. Now y'all know the story. What was going on with that?
Moses?
Yes. Anything. Let's go. I know y'all know this. Y'all saw the king of Egypt. Was that the prince of Egypt?
I heard of Moses, but I can't even remember. I can't really tell you the story.
Okay. Moses was a bad brother. Can't say it no other way. He went from being born in captivity, born a slave, he elevated himself to become the second most powerful position in Egypt, which the king is the ceremonial leader, but I don't know if the word is vizier, the administrative head of the country, that's what he became. Story is here, okay? He thought for 40 years of his life that he was an Egyptian. He lived the life of an Egyptian and he lived well, right? When he came to understand that he was part of this oppressed people, and that's where his mother and his father was, he decided that I got to be in the mix of that, okay? And he ended up leading not all of the Israelites, but some of the Israelites out of Egypt into Canaan land, and they, over time, ended up establishing Israel, okay? And all the history comes from that. Now, but before we get to that, the time that he was being born, listen to how I read. Tell me if this sounds familiar. This is Exodus, the 1st chapter at the 8th verse. Says, now there arose a new king over Egypt who knew not Joseph. Now, I'll tell you about Joseph. Joseph was kind of similar to Moses, but he's kind of like us in America. Joseph had, I think he had 12 brothers or 11, and it was 12 of them. I'd have to go back to check to make certain. But he was like one of the favorite sons, and they couldn't get with that. Okay, they ended up selling him into slavery in Egypt. His brothers did this. Okay, now listen to the story, because what happened was when a famine came, when hard times came on Israel, then his brothers end up coming to Egypt for help. By this time, Joseph, he like the man. He's the man in Egypt, because he interpreted a dream for Pharaoh, and Pharaoh made him, he gave him a lot of power. They didn't recognize him. They didn't know who he was. But ultimately, what happened was Joseph ended up being a blessing to his people back then, and now he's got everything set up in Egypt. He's living there, and we come to the time of Moses, when Moses is about to be born, and he's like, now there arose a new king, because the king who was there during the time that Joseph, he knew him, and they were good. Okay? Now, there arose a new king over Egypt who knew not Joseph. Now, the reason I'm telling you that story about the brothers selling their other brother into slavery, Sound like anything we familiar with? Anybody we know? Come on, man. Come on, man. Somebody. Us.
African Americans?
Yes, sir. So-called African Americans. Because what happened was, do we really believe that with our big, strong African self, living in Africa, been there all our lives, that these guys got on boats, and they ain't boats like today. They boats from thousands, a few hundred years ago. Do we believe that these guys got in boats, came down, they couldn't even come down to this block if we didn't want them to, and they just took us out by the millions? What happened was divide and conquer, and you had African nations who was at war with each other. They capture you on a boat, you going over here. Mm-hmm. Sold their brothers into captivity. It's not something a lot of people talk about, that the Africans participated in the slave trade too, some of them.
You're basically saying, if he got his crew and I got my crew and we're going to war and I conquer their crew, I ship them out.
In some instances, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. Yeah. So in this story, but that's what happened with Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery. But see, all of this, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught that of all disciplines, of all science, history is best qualified to reward all research. History is best qualified to reward all research. That means that the more you try to learn about your history, the greater it's going to benefit you outside of anything else. The Honorable Marcus Garvey, he said that the greatest education that you can give a man is letting him know who his enemy is. You have to know who you are. The only way you can know who your enemy is, you have to know who you are. So,
what you mean by that?
Put it like this. That's an excellent question. It's an excellent question. Because it's really not clear. But you got to get it. Now, what was the statement? How are you? What was the statement that I made again? Did you hear it? What was the statement? Email?
Oh, you can say that. That's fine.
What you mean by that?
I remember the question, but what was the statement?
What was the statement?
Yeah. Said the only way that you can know who your enemy is, you have to know what?
Who you are.
Who you are. And you asked what?
What you mean by that?
What I mean by that. Okay. Now, we'll write a word on the board. I don't know if you all can see it clearly.
Interest.
Interests. What's interests?
Interest, like, for the,
What you like?
y'all can go ahead, because
What you like?
interest.
What you
Good.
wanna do?
Good.
What you
like,
interested in.
What you into, interested in.
Yeah.
Your interests are like, say,
You interested in what you're talking about.
interested in what you're talking about too. Say, you put your money down in a project over here. You invested in that.
Interest in it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You got a stake in that.
Yeah.
You got interest in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, now interest. Tell you about this. See, everybody don't have the same interests.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that you can know whether or not your interests conflict with somebody else's, you gotta know what your position is. You gotta know yourself. Is that helping somewhat? Well, let me give you this.
Mm-hmm.
George Washington, you heard of him? He said, he was quoted as saying, when we establish this country, we shall have no permanent alliances. This is what the United States of America is established upon. He said, no permanent alliances, only permanent interests. George Washington. What I mean? Any idea? No permanent allies.
People.
What's an ally?
Friend.
A friend. America ain't nobody our friend like that.
Mm-hmm.
When they went into Iraq and France wasn't with it, they said, "Damn France, y'all cowards! Y'all better lay low over there, or we coming at you." That's how America rolls. No permanent allies, only permanent interests. That means at all times, as the matter requires, we're going to do what's in
Within yourself.
our interests. Okay, anything about what we ain't friends like that. That's what that break down to. That's real clear, ain't it? That's so when I'm saying to you that the only way that now when Marcus Garvey says that the greatest education that you can give somebody is to teach him who his enemy is. Why? Why is that important? What? Now, Marcus Garvey is one of the greatest black men that ever lived, one of the greatest men. He say the greatest education you give somebody is to teach him who his enemy is. Why is that important?
Just to know who you are. Find out who you really are.
Not really.
You gotta come stronger than that.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
So what you say? You say you don't know about what he said or what he said?
What about your enemy? I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Gotta explain it to me real good.
Well, I've been explaining real good so far, ain't I?
Yeah.
I mean, you know. They used to say faking the funk. They use that word anymore?
Faking the funk?
Faking the funk?
No.
Okay.
Fronting?
Fronting?
Yeah.
Two-faced?
Yeah,
Fraud.
something like that.
Two-faced? Fraud?
Frauding? Yeah.
Any of that?
Yeah.
Snake? So, what is it? Snake-a-dean? That's what we say? Okay,
Alright.
so y'all keeping me up on things. But, so, the greatest education that you can have is to know. You gotta know who the snake is. So that you what?
Won't get bit.
So you don't get played. Because when you know who the snake is, what you gonna do? You gonna govern yourself a whole nother kind. True, false. Because all we trying to do is make this make sense. Just trying to make this make sense. Not trying to, we not, this ain't no rah-rah talk. I'm trying to tell you something that if you get this, you're going to be getting to look at things a whole nother kind of way. You're going to be able to deal with things a whole different kind of way. You're not going to get played out of position. You're going to be able to be 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of what's going on, because you need to be right now, because right now this is hot. This whole thing is hot. It's crazy. This don't make no sense. This is insane. This is insane what's going on out here, man. This don't make no sense. I told y'all before, this is the fiery furnace. But we not burning in it. But there's a purpose, there's a mission for you. There's something that you guys supposed to be doing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So, I was telling you that during the time of Yeshuah, when he was born, that there was a government plan to eliminate all black males by King Herod. This is a historical fact. This is a historical document. This don't have nothing to do with religion. This is history we talking. Now we're going back about 5,000, almost 6,000 years to the time of Moses. I'll read what it says. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel, these people that we conquered, are more and mightier than we. No matter what they did to them, because remember, the Israelites were the ones who built those pyramids as slaves. Right? No matter what they did to them, these people continue to grow. They continue to multiply. Right? No matter what happened. So, they said, come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when war occurs, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Now that's real clear. Tick, is it clear? That
repeat that one more time.
Okay. A new king came who didn't know Joseph, because Joseph had risen to a position of prestige in the country. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. New king came, like, paraphrasing. I don't know that nigga.
Right?
Right?
That's right.
Don't care nothing about his mama, daddy, none of them. Okay? Mm-hmm. The problem we have is all these other niggas. There's niggas everywhere. They multiplying.
Yeah.
So, he said, you know what? You gotta get us a plan for that. That's what I just read. We good on that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Therefore, they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with burdens. And they built for Pharaoh treasure cities. And they names the cities. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And the Egyptians were grieved. They were upset because of the children of Israel. Okay? I'm going to jump down a little bit just to show you where we're going. And the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, listen, and see them upon the stools, they're talking about a birthing stool. Okay? This is a practice that's still being used today for midwives. The birthing stool. But he said, when a Hebrew woman is having a child, this is what he said. If it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Herod was the what? At the time.
King.
He was a king. Good, big. Herod was the king. Pharaoh was he's the Pharaoh, but he's the king of Egypt. You know what I'm saying? So, a king has the power to do what?